today's event is talking about how to make the most of the jobs fair and how to stand out to potential employers. I'm actually a good example of how you can get a job at the jobs fair, because that's how I got my role here last year. I saw the job advertised on the wide Sussex jobs board a couple of weeks beforehand. I went to the jobs fair, introduced myself to everyone basically, and just made myself really known, and then came to a few events, and that's how I eventually got my job here, so it's definitely possible. I'm just going to pass you over to my colleague Rebecca now, who will kick off today's session. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. I'm going to drink fizzy pop. I keep leaning up and down, so excuse any accidental clicks. So, gosh, welcome. I'm actually quite a nervous public speaker, so I'm going to try and remain calm and breathe. One thing, Jasmine, I think we were discussing beforehand, we are very keen, I don't know about you guys, we're quite avid Game of Thrones fans in the office, so thank you for attending this evening, and also thank you for hopefully not sharing any spoilers so far, and we're very grateful if we get through the evening unaware of who is sat on the throne. So, fingers crossed. Really quickly before we kick off, sorry, I realise I've got my phone, I might just pass it down, just, I don't know if it'll set off any weird, thank you very much. So welcome everyone to tonight's talent talk, grandly titled, How to Stand Out to Potential Employers. The reason we sort of put this event together is because we have a jobs fair coming up in a few weeks, and when we've run jobs fairs previously, sort of after the event, we've had quite a bit of feedback from people saying it was really good, but I'm not sure if I quite made the most of it, or I'm not quite sure if I could have done things a little bit better, or approached it in a different way. So we thought it would be really great before the event if we offered an opportunity for people to come along, hear some top tips from us and from some companies that we work with. So that's what we will do this evening. Introductions. Hello, I am Rebecca Groves, and I am the Skills and Talent Strategy Lead at Wide Sussex. Sorry, just one second, my slides. I am Rebecca Groves, and I am the Skills and Talent Strategy Lead here at Wide Sussex. So what that basically means is that I work with our members to understand some of their challenges and some of the opportunities around attracting diverse and inclusive teams, and I also work with job seekers to start to think about some of the things that would help them gain their jobs in the industry. The running order for this evening is that there'll be a short presentation from myself, then I'll sort of cover the top tips that we've been discussing in our sort of comms around the event, so I'll run through that. Then there'll be a panel with American Express and one of our other sponsors of the jobs fair, DabApps, and there'll be a chance afterwards to have some networking, and that's an opportunity to sort of maybe put into practice some of the tips from the event, or to come and chat with some of the Wide Sussex staff, or some of the companies who are joining us this evening. So first of all, as I mentioned, this event is sort of feeding into our jobs fair, which is taking place on the 18th of June. Can I just get a check how many people have registered to come to the jobs fair? Very good. And also, just so I have a bit of a steer, can I check how many people are currently employed in the sector? A few of you. How many are employed but not in the sector? More. How many are students? Any more? And how many don't fall into any of those categories? Oh, interesting. I need to widen my field. So I'd be interested to have a chat with you afterwards to see sort of where you would position yourself. So I'm going to cover these things in my presentation. So doing your research, curating your online profile, designing your CV, creating an elevator pitch, and stay connected. So first of all, doing your research. I really can't stress this enough. In order to make the most out of the jobs fair, the work really starts beforehand. So as companies sign up to be at the jobs fair, we are putting their information on the Eventbrite for the day. So you can go on there and you can take a look at the sorts of the companies who will be there, And then you could go onto their websites and you could start to have a look at what these companies actually do. So you could look at who the companies are, what they do, what projects they're working on, and that will mean that when you go to meet the companies at the jobs fair, you can really frame your conversation around that. Also, just because a company isn't working in your area, so for example, if you're an animator, you might not only want to speak to animation companies, because other types of companies might also have those roles within their organisation. So really start to dig deep into some of those companies that will be there. And what's really great is on a lot of the company websites, they have a team page, so you can go on and look at the sort of the DNA of their team and the sorts of roles that they have. You could also look at the sorts of jobs that they advertise. So a lot of the companies will be at the jobs fair, have live jobs on their live job ads on our website. So take a look at the job adverts, look to see how you align with the skills that they are asking for. And if there's gaps between your current skill set and the skills that they require, then that makes quite a good conversation point at the jobs fair as well. You could sort of talk about how important those gaps are, any suggestions they have in terms of how you could fill those gaps. And that all just sort of shows that you're really proactive and that you've put your research in. Also curating your online profile. So I don't know about you guys, but whenever I meet someone at an event, the first thing I do afterwards is to look them up online. And I think what is really important is to make sure that what people see when they look for you is what you want them to see. So first of all, there's sort of just some general housekeeping. Google yourself, see what comes up. If there's embarrassing photos on your Facebook or Instagram, then just change your privacy settings perhaps so that they are not publicly available. Also connect with the right people to show you're connected in the industry, so research top companies, research the companies that will be at the jobs fair, maybe follow them on Twitter, and start to populate your online accounts with some content that starts to show that you're aware of challenges and opportunities and news within the areas that you want to work. And also start to think about the companies that you're following. Who do they follow? So if I wanted to, as Jasmine did, if I wanted to work at Wide Sussex, I would look at Wide Sussex, I would follow them. I'd look at who they're following. Oh, they've got an event with DabApps this evening, I would follow DabApps. And then it just means that when you come to the jobs fair, again, you can, excuse me, you can start to have sort of full conversations with these companies. Also, LinkedIn accounts are really important. How many people have LinkedIn accounts? Oh, brilliant. Last time we did this event, it was probably about only a third. So that is really great. So again, before you come to the jobs fair, just make sure that your LinkedIn account is up to date. Make sure that any sort of key achievements that you want to put on there are sort of updated. And you can also start to use that to connect with some of the companies who will be at the jobs fair in advance of coming. So you could send them a little request and put that you're coming to the jobs fair and you're just really keen to connect with them. Designing your CV. So it's really important to have a concise CV when you come to a jobs fair. You don't need to be an artist or a designer to make this. It just needs to be short, strong and compelling. One of my colleagues was saying to me this morning that on average there's a stat to say that employees spend around 7 seconds looking at a CV, so you really just want to hit hard and ideally keep it to about a page of A4, ideally one side. When I give this presentation normally, I talk about tailoring your CV to a job application and making sure that it sort of mirrors what employers are looking for a specific job advert. But I think the challenge when you're going to a jobs fair is it's quite broad. So I think it's really about giving a flavour of who you are, what your passions are and what your experience is. So I'd say maybe having a short personal statement of a sentence or two, 3 or 4 of your key skills, quick key qualifications, or if you don't have a qualification in the area that you're looking to break into, maybe some experience of personal projects that you've worked on. Also, I quite like it when I get CVs and I see events that people have been to, so maybe just including a little bit about any sort of industry contacts that you've had, and then also just your basic contact information, so your telephone number, your email address, and also a link through to your LinkedIn account. The important thing is to make sure that it's really focused, really clear, and that it tells your story. Creating an elevator pitch. Normally, so does everyone know what an elevator pitch is? Great, so yeah, so the idea of an elevator pitch is that you can tell the story of yourself or your product in the time it would take to take an elevator or a lift to us with somebody. Usually that would be a minute or two, obviously in this case a few more than that. And I think this is really key at a jobs fair, is to try and hone down what it is you want to say about yourself to the employers who are there. And having been on job stands, you meet hundreds and hundreds of people, and you quite often don't have very long with those people. So the people, for me, who make a really big impact are those who can come and really confidently and concisely say who they are, what it is that they do, and why they are excited to speak with you. So I think if you can hone that elevator pitch, maybe run through it a few times. A great way to do it is to sort of write down everything that you want to say about yourself, and then reorder it, and then edit it a little bit, and then start testing it out with some friends. And you feel like a little bit of a fool sometimes, or I do anyway, like testing these things out. But it really does make a big difference if you can just practice honing it down and just repeating it. Also staying connected, so a lot of that was focused on sort of pre-jobs fair and at the jobs fair, but after the jobs fair is equally as important. So once you've been to the jobs fair and you've made all these connections, you really want to be able to capitalise on it. So a top tip that I have when people are going to jobs fairs is not just giving out your CV, but make sure that you're collecting business cards. And if you have an interesting conversation with someone, jot it down on the back of the business card, and then after the event, you can send a follow-up email and say, really great to meet you at the jobs fair, and to discuss whatever it was that you discussed. It would be great to discuss whatever roles they have vacant that you're interested in, or if there aren't any current vacancies, you could say it'd be really great to stay in touch about any future vacancies that you do have. And then also just think of that as the start of a long and beautiful relationship, and check back in with the companies. Quite often companies have newsletters that you could sign up to, so you will be able to keep abreast of any projects that they win, which might be a good opportunity to get back in touch to find out about any more jobs that might open up within the organisation. And then also keep an eye on their social media accounts, see if they're going to be at any other events in the future that you could go along and maybe connect back in with them again. So they're my 5 top tips. Does anyone have a question about any of those before we open it up to our panel? Oh, perfect. Excuse me. So in that case, we will move on to our panel. So I'm delighted that we have Scott Hardie, who heads up the grad and intern programmes at American Express. Excuse me, sorry. And Ed Hickey, who's the commercial director at DabApps. So we're going to have a little chat about some of their top tips for the jobs fair. So I'll start off with some questions, and then everyone can join in. Thank you. I'm really aware that was a lot of me talking, so I'm going to try and keep my questions minimal. So be thinking of your own questions as well, because there's only so much you can stand of a Stokey going on. So first of all, start off. If you could, sorry, we've just got the one microphone, so I'm going to pass it along. If you could, first of all, Scott, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Amex and the sorts of roles that you recruit for.
Where do I start? So also my name's Scott Hardie, work at American Express. I've been at Amex now for nearly 5 years. And my role at Amex is I look at the kind of end-to-end strategy for our technology development programs, mainly looking at the kind of summer internship program for tech and also the full-time graduate program. So what I do is I look right from how we attract talent in the best ways possible, and how we assess them, and then right through to the program delivery. So when they join Amex, what does the program look like in terms of what training they can be given, what opportunities they can be given, in order to try and help them accelerate their career at a pace that they didn't think would be possible. And in terms of the roles that we're looking for, so I mainly look after the kind of graduate roles, but Paul at the back, who's with me from Amex, he looks at more the experienced hire roles. So we're hiring for both at the moment, mainly in our Burgess Hill office, but we're also just expanding up to London as well, which is really exciting. So we currently only have around 45, I think, up in London. I might be slightly out with the numbers, but we're massively looking to expand by at least another 50 this year, and then to continue that growth over the next couple of years. So it's a great time to be in tech and Amex. The sort of roles we're recruiting for are software engineers, quality engineers, tech PMs, scrum masters, all with kind of varying levels of experience. So not just the experience, so maybe even if you've only got 1 or 2 years out of uni, then yeah, we still definitely would love the opportunity to have a conversation with you. So that's kind of us in a nutshell, but Paul and I will be around later on if you have any questions that we don't answer in the panel. Paul.
Thanks, Scott. I'm Ed Hickey, I'm the Commercial Director at DabApps. So unlike American Express, you might not have heard of DabApps, so I'll start with that. But we're a Brighton-based software agency. So we design and build bespoke software products for lots of different companies. We're based here in Brighton. We have a small office in Cardiff as well, but we have around 32 people currently here in Brighton. I'm the commercial director, so I look after kind of sales, marketing, but also commercial strategy and lots of the business side of things in the company. And one part of that is recruitment, so I help with the recruitment. Kind of focusing on our employer brand is quite important to us, so we work quite closely with Wired Sussex. We do a lot of our recruitment through Wired Sussex job board. But also last year we sponsored the talent jobs fair, Talent 2018 last year, which was really good and a really good way of us getting out and meeting job seekers. But also we had some roles that we were recruiting for. Predominantly it's software engineering or development roles that we recruit for, but we also hire project managers, marketing people. We've recently hiring office manager, so there's quite a lot more to it than just software or engineering roles. So we always say to people, if you're looking, don't just assume that we're only going to be hiring people who can write code. There are other jobs in the industry, so the jobs fair is a really good way of coming and meeting us and speaking to us.
Great, thank you. Actually, one thing that reminded me that I forgot to ask when I was doing my hands up. Can I check how many people know which area of the sector they want to go into? How many are developers? I think quite a few developers. Marketing, project management, design. Okay.
Yeah, good mix.
Yeah. Have I not covered any of those as well? Anyone who doesn't fall into those categories? Oh, one. What do you do? Copywriting. Copywriting. What was the one? What do you do?
I've started to be a musician. I was going to change fields, so I'm just here to check out
Okay.
more about the music.
Perfect. Okay, so my first question was, for people who are coming along to the jobs fair, do you have any top tips on how to make a good impression when someone comes to chat with you at your stand? How do they impress you?
It's hard to say something you've not already said, but my main thing is preparation, because we go to quite a few, mainly for me it's mainly the graduate fairs, and so many times you get people who just want the freebies. So don't be a freebie grabber. If you want to be a freebie grabber, be a little bit more discreet rather than just kind of wait until everyone at the stand is talking to someone and just run up and grab. Yeah, literally. It's amazing what people do for a plastic pen. But yeah, no, in all honesty, kind of two things for me is preparation. So like we were saying earlier, in terms of have a look at what companies are going to be at the fair, and then really kind of spend time thinking where could you see yourself working. So from what you know about that company, then spend a bit of time researching about them. So even before you get an interview, and then, because there's nothing better than coming up to say a conversation with me and saying, hey, I've looked at the opportunities, and really try and look for every opportunity to show that you've researched a company. So like who was sat at the top of the throne, right? Kind of for Amex. And at least find out a bit about American Express. Because the main thing you want to do in that short time you have is just try and leave a little legacy with that person. Okay, so try and say something that is going to hopefully let them remember you, because then what I then suggest is make sure you connect. Okay, so talking a lot about connecting on like LinkedIn, but don't just connect, make a proper connection. So let's say, hey Scott, I met you at American Express at the stand at the careers fair. I was the one who talked about kind of just wanting a free pen. And then kind of just say that hopefully that was really a little thing from the legacy that you left with them, and then start the conversation then, because one of the things we're not allowed to do at Amex is take CVs. So from a GDPR perspective, we're not allowed to take, I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so without kind of getting to sign a form before, we're not allowed to take them. So the best way to connect with people is through LinkedIn and carry on that conversation. Because there's nothing better than, I have quite a few times in the events that we run, is such and such we say, just to let you know you're going to get an application from Scott Hardie. I met him at an event, he's continued the conversation on LinkedIn, he sounds really engaged, really keen about Amex, he's done his research, and it's like a referral, which is, I believe, is the best form. So yeah, two things, research a company and think of a way how you can leave a legacy. The third little thing is, don't just talk about you. So kind of the person you're speaking to, find out about them, what they like about Amex, because for the whole assessment process, it's not all about the company assessing you. You need to make sure that if you want a kind of a really good career within that company, that it's the right one for you. So also ask them as many questions as you can. Find out what it is they like at Amex, what the different career paths, what they like about it, what don't they like about it. Just because it's just as important for you to make sure we're the right company for you. That's it. Sorry if I talked too much.
No?
I think you've nicked all my answers.
I'm going to mix up who I am.
Yeah, I think I can just about see what I've written down there, but I think one of the things to add, I think doing the research part is definitely key. And I was on the stand last year, and we had really busy. You know, you're going to see a lot of people, and also for the people attending, you're going to go and speak to lots of different companies. So I think on the research side of things, there is a lot you can find out in advance. So you can find out who's going to be there, try and find the stands that you want to go to. And you might find some other things that you weren't prepared for, but the ones that are really important to you, I would do that. And think about, you know, how you can actually make a difference within those companies. So don't just look at the obvious things on the website, but maybe look at, you know, projects that they've got going on. Really good to look at their kind of values. Someone I think you mentioned earlier, like, you know, often you'll be able to find a kind of meet the team page where you can find out more about other people that work there, and basically get a sense of the type of company it is and the type of values that they have, and hopefully you know, a candidate's going to stand out really well if they share the values of the company. So if you know, they might have technical skills, that has to be there, but you know, if you're going to be successful and actually get a job, you've got to have kind of more than that almost, and you've got to make a connection. So that you can do a lot of that in the research. I'm just trying to read my notes over here as well. But the other thing I think that's important is, as Scott said, connecting and asking questions to the people on the stand. What we do, because it's quite a long day if we're at these events, we actually get members of the team to come and spend time on the stand as well. So it's not just the person that's actually hiring. So you could be talking to a future colleague. So, you know, try and make connections there as well, find out what it's like. So you can kind of use it not just as a way of getting a job, but also kind of getting more detailed research on that company. So you might find from the jobs fair that you've met 3 or 4 people that work there, and you really like it, you think it's really good, you've got much better stories to tell then. The job that you're looking for might be available when you turn up. You might be looking to do marketing, and there might be a marketing role, or there might not be. But if you can stay in touch, stay connected, again, things that these guys have covered, you've got a really good chance, basically, if you've made that initial connection, and you can go back when the job comes, and you know, the company actually know you, or you know somebody who works there. So it's a really good way of, you know, kind of finding out not just meeting the decision maker or the person hiring, but also members of the rest of the company.
On that note, I was just wondering, I know Jasmine spoke earlier about getting her job at White Sussex through the jobs fair last year. Do you have any examples of where you've made hires of new staff through job seeker events? I'm going to
Yeah.
start with you.
So So the jobs fair at DabApps is quite new to us. We don't do many because we're a Brighton-based company. Last year was the first year that we've done it here. But I think we have a pretty good story. Last year we didn't hire anyone, but timing of the actual event and the roles that we had available didn't line up. We're not a huge company, but we did make quite a lot of good connections. But just before that event last year, we did make a hire from a similar event, so Brighton Digital Festival, where we had an open studio at DabApps, and somebody came along to that. They were actually looking for a job at the time, and they'd heard about DabApps and they'd done their research, and they thought that sounds like a really cool place to work. I'd like to go and work there. They were a developer, an engineer. We had no jobs available at the time, but they came to the event. And they met lots of us, and we really liked her, and she stayed in touch. And then a couple of months after that event, a job did actually become available, so she noticed that and she got in there. She'd also followed us and started coming to other events, so after the open studio that we did, she came to another event that we were hosting, so by the time the job had come round, it was actually quite an easy decision for us to make, because we knew she had really good skills and she was able to get in there very, very quickly. So I think that's a really good example. Whilst it wasn't a jobs fair as such, it shows that you can, by connecting with a potential employer, doing your research, finding companies that you might be interested in, and building that kind of relationship up, it really put her in a strong position. And she's been with us, and she's a senior engineer now, which is really great. So, yeah.
I've got quite a few. But one that stood out most recently is we attended a recruitment event up in London, a training provider called General Assembly. So they're just finishing their training programs. They have the opportunity to meet employers. And I didn't attend this event, but two of our top colleagues did. And they came away, they probably saw about 150 people at this event. All potential colleagues, so they could have all be applying for roles at Amex. This is one particular person who left her legacy, and that was down to just her pure passion to work at American Express and within technology. And that really stood out. So the next day the recruiter called me and said, "Scott, this is an amazing person. I think you're going to love her." She spoke to us for about 20 minutes, and she was just so passionate and really determined to work at Amex and kind of get in a great company that would help her develop. So needless to say, we started putting her through the process. Every stage, that legacy carried on, and I actually did her final interview, and it was incredible. It was just literally the passion that she had for working at Amex. She knew so much about us. She was so keen. She was honest, and she said, "Look, I don't know everything within technology. I've only just done a 12-week boot camp at GA, but I'm willing to learn." That's one of the things at Amex that hopefully some of you may know if you have friends that work with us, is it's not just about what you can provide now. It's literally that, as well as your potential and your kind of passion for learning. For me, it's just as important. So what you like is, if you get asked a question in an interview, you're like, "Oh, I don't know the answer." But what I would do, if you were to employ me, I'd make sure before I started, this is how I'd learn. Do you know what I mean? Because part of the development programs is that you're there to develop. So yeah, for her, she really stood out, really passionate, super keen. And yeah, that was literally, I think they interviewed her about 3 weeks ago. And she's starting with us in September. So yeah, that's an example.
Brilliant, thank you. Are there any questions from anyone other than me? I do have another backup question, but I'm pretty sure that some shy people must have some. Or have we just covered everything?
I have a
Oh,
question. Yeah, you were talking about how it wasn't that you don't take CVs. Now, how about business cards? Is that inappropriate to slide something for somebody to? I mean, I know it's probably an Amex policy or something.
Yeah, it's still, unfortunately, it's down to the personal data.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're taking it for business reasons,
Oh.
we now have to, so we now have basically like an online where you can sign up. So we take iPads to all of our events,
Mm-hmm.
where basically, as part of the front page, you have to tick a box that says you've read a certain statement, that you're happy for us to use your personal details for business purposes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not kind of the way we like to do stuff, but obviously it's a huge organisation. We
It's
want
like
to make sure.
privacy protection.
Yeah, we're kind of,
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do only things we should do.
Right.
By to the point of if you take their business card, I mean, this is my guess, but I imagine that post-event, the amount of contact emails that you get is, whilst a lot, might not be as many as CVs you'll be given on the day.
Yes.
So you probably would stand a better chance of a follow-up conversation. Sorry. By you being a proactive one, getting in touch, than you having just left something behind.
I would say, yeah, I'd say the same. So we usually have like an iPad there so that we can take people's details and we would ask if you want to, you know, become part of the mailing list. But I would say taking a business card from us as well is also a really good idea, because we do end up with a huge number of CVs on the day, and it can be quite difficult kind of to sort of go through all of those. We obviously try to, but if you take that and you follow up afterwards, a few days later, you know, it's another way of keeping that connection going. So that's definitely something that's worth doing. But I would say most of the stands leave CV, definitely, but try and do a little bit more, maybe make a connection. I think thinking of things a bit longer term is also a really good idea. So, you know, dropping a CV off once might not be enough, but you can probably, you know, use it as a way of following up again in future.
And just a little bit to add there as well. In terms of, it's not just about your CV. I personally can't stand CVs. And I should probably say that on the kind of panel discussion we're having now, because I just think it's not a true reflection sometimes of the person that's handing it in. So another thing that we kind of look at is, do you have anywhere where you demonstrate your work? So as well as attaching the CV, if you were to email us afterwards, do you have a GitHub account? Or do you have a personal website? So personal websites, for those that don't have them, are such a powerful tool for us to look at kind of the work you've done. So a lot of people have got talk and talk, but actually if you've got some a reflection of actually work you produced, whether that be at uni, whether it be in your free time, just make sure you, if you're going to email us, put that at the top. So that check out my work, here's my CV, but by the way, check out my GitHub, check out my Stack Overflow, and that'll give you more of a reflection of what I do and my passions. Just another little hint for those that remember.
So what was that? GitHub, you said? I've not heard of it.
GitHub,
GitHub. Okay.
yeah, so it's massively
Say
used.
what that is.
Wow. So this is coming from a non-technical person. I'm not quite sure how I've got my job. But basically, it's kind of an opportunity for you to kind of showcase the projects you've been working on. So it's just like more of a kind of techie LinkedIn. So it shows kind of if you've worked on any websites, you can kind of demonstrate it, or any certain projects. And I'm going to hand over to my left to see if there's any more.
Well, yeah, it's a code repository that developers would use, but you can showcase your projects in there quite easily. So it's a good way of developers sharing that. But I think the other thing there is cover letters as well. CVs, yeah, it's quite hard to stand out just with a CV. And we've just been through this very recently, because we just hired for an office manager, kind of finance manager role, and we got huge, those kind of jobs are quite popular. We got a huge number of CVs, and it can take quite a long time, and it's really hard. You realise it's really hard for people to stand out, because most people have got quite good level of experience, the people that were applying. So, a one-page CV, I think that is almost, definitely no more than that. It's really difficult for anyone to read more than that, I would say, but something that can make it stand out visually or make it look a little bit less like a traditional CV is always good. I'm not, it doesn't need to be too crazy and wacky, but something that will make it stand out to the reader is important. But also, I think probably more important is like the covering email or letter, because from that you actually can tell more about the position the person's in, how much they want it, how well they fit with you. They tend to tailor that more. I think trying to tailor your CV is really important, but you can probably achieve more either in a discussion with someone or by kind of writing a personal intro. But yeah, website, great.
So you actually read the cover letters, really?
Well, I think.
Well, I mean, as long as they're not like a whole.
Yeah, well, again, one paragraph, good cover letter, one paragraph, really good.
Or even can the cover letter like be in an email? Like if you're sending your email, it's in the body of the email,
Absolutely.
and then you just have your
Absolutely.
and then you have your
Make it
links
as
to
easy
it.
as possible.
Boom, that's
Yeah.
it.
I would have one attachment and just just the CV, and then the rest in the cover, in the actual email, rather than trying to make someone read 2 lots. Yeah.
I think the other thing, if you're looking online, so just quickly on that point, probably talking to Mike. If you're looking online, try and find out who the person is recruiting the role. Okay, so if it's not through a job fair, if you're looking at, say, you see a job on LinkedIn, you can normally find at the bottom. Or why it's because the reason is that you've got to remember you're probably going to be up against at least X amount of hundreds of people. So if you've done something different, that's going to make you stand out. So if you contacted, I don't know, Paul Drew, I'm saying that's in the back, contacted him and said, look, I've seen the job, can you tell me a bit more about it? So I want to make sure that I'm right for you and I have some of the skills you're looking for before I submit my application. And automatically, you're probably going to be one of no more than 4 or 5 people that will do that. So that gets you to the top of the pile, right? So it's always have a look at, you know how that horrible phrase of thinking outside the box? It kind of works with this context, is that think about how you can make yourself kind of the front of that CV pile, because if you start at 7 seconds, if you have a few that aren't very good, that probably goes down to 5. But if you've already made that connection with the recruiter, they're going to be looking maybe 10 seconds at your CV. So so just try and think what you can do to stand out.
Oh, yes, another question. One second. Just need to talk into the microphone because we're filming it in other ones.
I'm not from UK, so I try to understand the culture in general. First thing, what do you think about photos on CV? Should I have it or not? Because the country I'm from, it's okay, but here it might take as a kind of, depending on your physical exercise.
So so it's probably, well, it might be easier for me to answer initially. I think it's there's within a corporate setting it might be a different answer that you've given. I think trying to make the CV in some way visual is good. So it can be quite difficult just to read lines and lines of text. I think a photo it could stand out, but it's probably a bit of a, I don't know, whether it's the done thing at the moment. Go with that.
My opinion is, I think there's better things you could be using that space for. So if you're trying to stick to one page, a photo isn't going to put you in front of everyone else, but maybe a bit more of a detailed personal profile statement at the top, or kind of maybe use that space for your LinkedIn account or your kind of GitHub account address. That's my opinion.
Yeah, or an infographic. You can get some quite, like a timeline of what you've been doing, and some highlights is probably a good way of making something stand out. Or just using colour, different fonts, just trying to make it more visual without necessarily relying on a photo. So I think, trying to get the cultural balance of that is probably, I'd say, maybe 15 years ago it'd be different, more people would be doing it, and I think less so now. But we wouldn't discard a CV if it had a photo on it. I think that's...
It's quite interesting, just a funny thing, we've been recruiting a lot more from Europe within the last 12 months, so we now have been attending some recruitment events out in Europe, and it definitely is a trend in Europe, right? I don't think I received a CV without a photo on. And the range of photos are quite interesting too. Anyway.
Okay, follow-up question.
Yeah, because in this context, just last week I had a kind of a suggestion, like especially it's for writing more marketing or PR jobs. Somebody suggested me, you have your CV attached on email, and he was saying to me, why you don't think about a video cover letter or video presentation if it's a kind of a more visual job than tech job? What would you think about it?
Amazing. Different, right? And I think there are some companies out there now that are starting to do like startups in terms of video CVs. I think, but it's probably for the right person, right? Because that will turn some people completely off. They'll be like, why are you doing that? But I think it depends on knowing your kind of company you're going for a job at. Are they kind of the sort of company that look at for new ways of doing things? Because I think in a video CV, you can show yourself off far better in terms of your personality, how you come across, your passion, rather than trying to put it into words. But just make sure your audience is right. And I think that's probably quite obvious from the research you'll do about the company before applying, whether or not a video CV would work. But if you're applying to Amex and it's got Scott Hardie at the first bit of the email, 100% send a video CV.
The role, role. So certain roles, obviously, that will stand you in better stead. If it's a role where you're going to be presenting, or you need to kind of showcase that aspect of your personality or skills, then obviously a really good way of doing it. And yeah, you probably will stand out because not everyone's going to go down that route. So it's a good way of differentiating yourself.
Any more questions? Oh, couple. Just hit the, oh, hang on. I'm going to work my way around. Just 1 second. I'm going to bring the microphone. I feel like a challenge Annika.
Hi, I'm a teacher trying to escape, which we all are. What kind of transferable skills, non-tech, can I sell myself on, or should I focus mainly on tech skills? And second question, personal websites. If I'm hoping to be a back-end programmer, do I need to show front-end skills and design my website from scratch, or is it acceptable to use software to write my personal site?
Thank you. 1 second.
So your first question was, okay, so you're looking to go into tech? I think by being a teacher, you've probably shown that you can manage kids. So that's probably a great skill. So I think kind of what comes with that is probably most of the soft skills we'd be looking for. So you probably showcase that. But I think as an employer, I'd be more looking for how you develop yourself technically. So we'd be looking for ways that you could demonstrate, okay, so you've been teaching, but what else have you been doing to kind of get your knowledge up? I think the best way for that is like around designing apps. I know it's kind of not great, but I'm sure, I mean, some examples of that are, for the grad program, you don't have to study computer science. I saw somebody who's in music. He was a person in music that's looking to, so we quite often have people that study music, law, or anything completely non-related to tech, but what they've done is they've built app because they've worked out halfway through, this isn't for me. They continue their degree, it shows their commitment, but also it shows their passion because they're learning how to do tech in their own time as well as doing their degree. So I would just focus your development around something you can use to showcase what you've done. And really, don't, rather than just saying, I mean, I've done 4 hours learning Java. Okay. But if you can get some real life examples of what you've done. And in terms of websites, I think everyone has their own opinion on this. But I know you said about being back end, but there's still, I'm sure you could learn the skills in order to provide some sort of website. Or use the GitHub piece. So do it in a different way.
Well, echo some of what Scott said there, but I think being a teacher, obviously there's quite a lot of transferable skills I think that you bring into any kind of office environment. A lot of the developer community tends to be quite inexperienced in terms of other skills in many cases, so we hire a lot of young people out of university or college. And some will not have kind of managed people or managed, I can't think a teacher would have done a lot of that in terms of managing a classroom and working in, quite a challenging environment. So I think you can bring a lot, definitely having that background is something that would bring a lot to a company looking for developers. What was the second part of your question?
Personal website.
So for us, I think if you are looking, we hire back end, front end, and full stack. Obviously, everyone kind of wants full stack developers, and everyone wants to be a full stack developer, but that doesn't mean that you need to be full stack. We might be looking for somebody specifically back end, and if that's your real passion and that's what you really like, you might not want to spend loads of time on a front end website, or you might want to make it look deliberately terrible because you're a back end developer. So I think you can make that decision yourself, but I don't think it would go against you if you use something else to kind of put that forward. But yeah, do try and find something to showcase yourself, so some kind of test project or something that you've done that can help you stand out. And I think if you're trying to you're trying to get into it as a career change, I definitely think going out and speaking to companies like ourselves is a really good place to start. We do have a lot of conversations with people in that situation, and coming along and finding out the types of tools that agencies use, and the type of frameworks and languages. You can kind of get a sense for where the opportunities are in the area that you're looking. So if you want a job in Brighton, you want to work for an agency, you want to write back-end code, then find out which companies are doing it, what are they using, because it can be quite difficult. I was being asked earlier, I think, around what should I focus on, what languages, what frameworks. You know, that can be a difficult decision to make. So come out, speak to people, find out what they're using, and hopefully that's a good thing to pick up from the jobs fair.
Just one little thing. One of the things we do within the kind of Amex tech scene is we do run personal website workshops. So we can maybe speak for you. If anyone was interested, we bring some of our grads along and they run a 2-hour workshop on how to create a personal website. So if that's of interest, then let us know and we can sort it out for anyone who's interested.
Great, and just on Scott's earlier point about the sort of self-directed learning as well, we are going to have a talk at the jobs fair from a gentleman who set up a really great AR company. They're one of the residents here, and he's learned really complex coding languages that he's completely self-taught him through online resources. So that might be a talk that's interesting as well at the jobs fair. There was another question at the back. Hello, I'm going to try and bring the microphone again. Things get lost in translation when I read it now.
We've talked here about CVs and portfolios. What would you consider to be almost more important? Would you expect a very good CV and a poor portfolio, or a very good portfolio and a poor CV? Which one would be more less likely to not get the job?
Give you time to think about that while I walk back.
Might do the last one first. I'll hand it to you to go first.
I think it depends when it's being presented. So at a jobs fair, you might not have time to go through your whole portfolio. So your CV might be the kind of door opener. It really depends how much time you've got. So that could be important in that context. If not, if you have the opportunity to provide a portfolio, I would say that's probably more important. But again, it depends on the type of role that you're applying for. If we were looking for a designer, for example, a digital designer, then the portfolio would be really, really important. I.e., we're probably not going to make a decision on that person if we're not impressed with their portfolio. But if they had a poor CV, they may have managed to get to speak to us and show their portfolio, which we're really impressed with. There's a good chance that they could still get the job. So I think it does really depend. I think portfolios are really, really important in kind of creative roles and visual design roles, definitely. If you wanted a back-end developer role, it might be less important. There might be other things, so I'd probably focus on other tools that you can. But a website kind of bridges that quite nicely, maybe. So create your own website.
What I would quickly say is we're sort of talking today about the jobs fair on the 18th, but also the following day on the 19th, we do have our portfolio clinic. So if you are a designer and you specifically want to have advice on your portfolio, I'd recommend we'll send the link around. Has anyone who signed up for the portfolio clinic? A couple of you. So we'll send a link around in the follow-up email from this event. So if you do have design portfolios that you want feedback on, then it's a really great opportunity to come along and meet some companies at the event, get one-to-one advice on your portfolio, and we also have a networking element to that event as well, so you can get some informal advice as well.
One. And also on that, I think we did the portfolio clinic last year, but also if you are potentially a developer and you've got things you want to show in that area, if it's not just design, but you actually want to show some kind of showcase projects or some portfolio that you've built up on project work, then it's also a good place to do that. We turn up and we'll give critique, and it's a really good opportunity to actually spend some time going through things in detail, and you're not necessarily feeling like it's an interview situation, you're just actually asking for advice and guidance. So our creative director comes along, has got a lot of experience in that, and actually spends a decent amount of time with each person, so I definitely recommend that.
Just to answer the question, and I've got an opinion on the second point too. Unfortunately, I think it's probably spend time on your CV, because you're more likely, if somebody's got 100 CVs, they're more likely going to read your CV than open up your website. That's going to take more of their time. And if they've only got 30 minutes to review all the CVs, they're going to do the thing that's quickest for them. But have their profile on as a backup. My other last point on the review session that you're doing, the workshop, is just remember everyone's got their own opinion. Okay? And don't be offended if people are saying to do something in completely the opposite way to what you've done it, because you'll go to the next person and they'll agree with you. So just bear in mind, what do you think, based on if you're applying for a job, what are they asking for on their CV? That's what you need to focus your CV on. So like what they're looking for in terms of that you have to have. Because I think I spoke to quite a few people, they're like, I spoke to 5 people and said all different things. I should have it on 2 pages, I should have it on 1 page, I should have my education at the top, I should have it at the bottom. So sometimes just get a varied opinion and take out the key things you've learned as a kind of collective group of 5 people. Just don't be too kind of disheartened if people do start kind of telling you different things.
Okay, I think we've probably got time for one more question, if anyone has anything else to ask? Oh, yes. Hang on. Going to come round. I need someone's phone to go off again to give all the theme music.
So just in terms of like personal branding, I use a different name to my own name to kind of brand what I do. Would you find that confusing, or would you kind of find it, would that matter? So I find it really confusing, like laying out my CV with my brand name on top and then using my own name stuff.
Can I just quick guess, when you say brand name, do you mean that because you were the copywriter, is that right?
Yeah, I'm a designer.
A designer, so you have a brand that you work under? Okay. So if someone's applying and they work under a brand name, would you include that brand name or would you use your actual name?
I'm confused already. I would use your personal name. So anything that's going to kind of impact you personally, about you, so it's not about your company, it's you that is applying for a job, I would put your name, because if I was interviewing you, one of the first things I'd do is look for like a LinkedIn profile, and any profiles I'd be looking for your name, not a company name. So my opinion would be, for anything that's going to impact you personally, do it under your name. But if you're looking to kind of get work in from companies as a company, then do it under your company name.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and that you're going to need your name on there. I think for a company like us, it might be confusing, and we might think that you're kind of more sort of freelance. If freelance work is what you're looking for, then maybe the brand is something that's important. But if you're looking to be an employee of the company, then I think the name is really important. And that doesn't mean that you can't include the brand name somewhere else in there to explain that. But I think if it's the title or the head, then it needs to probably be.
So if I use my own name and then my website would be my brand name, that would be incoherent or confusing.
For me, that would be okay. I think if you said that this was your website URL, then fine, brand name for me.
Just one little thing on that. I was visiting South Africa in March. We went to do some recruitment over in South Africa, and around the name thing, make sure you use the same name in everything. Because some people have kind of more than kind of 3 names. Some of them have kind of up to 5 that we were working with, and depending on what they were doing, they'd use different parts of their name. And it just got terribly confusing, because like from a paperwork perspective, and then we're looking to look at them online, they'd be under a different name, and if you do an interview feedback, they'll have one name, so just make sure whatever your name is, for applying for a job, that's your name. Either the full name or just part name, to make sure you stick to the same name, otherwise it could mean you're losing a job, because it's just too confusing. That's why I like that.
I found that when I got married and I changed my name, there's quite a lot of rebranding there. No divorce. Okay, so don't think about it. So I thought maybe I do have a final question, but before I move on to that, is there anything that either of you had wanted to cover in any of the questions from the audience that hasn't been covered that you thought would have been useful to share?
Just a one-liner. It's not all about your skills. Okay, so from an Amex, not just in tech, but outside of tech as well, we don't just look for what you can do. We are such a people's organisation. Make sure you position yourself that we want to know not about everything. Okay, because there might be some certain things you've done in your life that are really impactful to us and kind of help us make a decision at the end. So yeah, just make sure you come across as the real you and not just, oh, I code. What do you do in the evening? I code. Do you do the weekend? I code. Okay, we do want to know the real you. So that really does kind of mean a lot to us as a people's organisation.
Yeah, I think most of it's been covered and some really good questions, which is great. But I think the only thing that I may not have covered was just think long term about this as well. I think obviously if you're looking for a job immediately, right now, those opportunities might be there, they might not be there, but it's worth making this effort and thinking about these things slightly longer term than just the event itself. So putting in that effort and starting off maybe a connection or relationship with a potential employer now is a really good opportunity to do that at the event. So.
Going on a cheesy question. What are you most looking forward to about being a part of our jobs fair?
Meeting local talent, right? I think there's a myth out there that there isn't that much talent within the Brighton area, and you've got to go far and wide for it. And I think that's a complete myth. I think there's some amazing talent in Brighton, so I think the thing that we're most looking forward to is kind of meeting you guys and giving us the opportunity to get some local talent. So yeah, I think that's kind of what we're most looking forward to.
Yeah, I'd echo that. It's great to get out and meet people. I think it seems like there's a really diverse group in the room today, which is great. I think sometimes job fairs can just be focused towards maybe college leavers or graduates, but I think there's a lot of diversity in Brighton, and we always try to kind of promote that. So it's great to be able to go out, meet people, the opportunity at a fair like that, having a stand, trying to make it fun. Hopefully people come and chat with us, and we do try to get, not just managers there, but members of the team to try and engage. And hopefully we get to learn something back as well. So finding out what people are looking for as well, rather than just like, what are we looking for, but what are job seekers looking for, what are people that are retraining looking for, or people who are returning to work, or people who are coming out of education. So that changes, it's constantly evolving. So coming back this year and seeing how things change, I think that would be really interesting.
Great, and just to Ed's point actually, this year for our jobs fair, we are really keen to make it as diverse and as inclusive as possible. So we have a family room, so if anyone's coming and they have children, you're very welcome to bring children with you. We're set up for that. The venue is fully accessible, and if there's anything else that we can do to try and support people attending, please do have a chat with us. I know Jasmine's been putting that in a lot of the event copy that's been going out, but if there's anything that you can do, or if you know of anyone who you think would be interested in coming to a jobs fair but might have barriers in attending, let us know, and we will do whatever we can to support everyone to achieve amazing careers in digital in Brighton and Sussex. Can we give a round of applause to our panel?